Welcome to my channel by MWoo. I'm MWoo, aka Marianne, and this is my first knitting podcast. For background on me, I've been knitting pretty consistently since December last year, so I'm a fairly new knitter, and I just got bit by the knitting bug and have run with it since. In terms of starting this podcast, I kind of just wanted to engage with the community a little bit more, and realistically, in my personal life, there's not too many people that knit a ton, besides my mom and my sister and one or two of my friends. Knitting isn't a very common topic around my life, and so as much as I have a lovely husband who listens to me talk about my projects on and on and on, there's a difference between talking at someone about knitting versus talking with someone about knitting. You know what I mean? So I am just jumping in and I don't know what I'm doing. I kind of am just going with the flow and seeing where this takes me, and yeah. In terms of content for these podcasts, I'm not going to be very original, and I'm probably going to follow the usual finished object, work in progress, yarn acquisitions, project planning, Misc section. Not entirely sure what I'm going to do with the last portion there because my project planning is kind of everywhere, but I think we'll go with that format, see where it takes us. I might change it up here and there, but that's what we'll start with. With all that being said, I will start with finished objects, which I only have one today, and it is the top that I'm wearing. This is the Aosta summer top by the Knit Purl girl, and it's this beautiful raglan textured t-shirt that is made in a DK weight yarn. And this was my first time making a Knit Purl girl pattern, and I had a really enjoyable experience with it. The pattern recommends that you use Sandnes Garn Sunday Held Double, which is what I followed, and I used the colorway Acorn. I am kind of interested and don't really know why I selected this brown toned, because brown is not usually a color that I tend to gravitate towards, but I think it's this beautifully warm almost brown that I think works really well for this summer, just spring summer, despite it not really being a traditional spring/summer color. I think on my Instagram I talked about how I do wish that I use a little bit of a brighter color, but also I'm very happy with this color selection that I picked. This top is, like I said, a textured top. I believe the stitch pattern is called the Azulian stitch. I'm probably butchering that and like really off. It's in the pattern description if you want to know more details, but it's this repetitious textured pattern that gives the shirt a little bit of visual interest without being too loud. In terms of size, I kind of knit a mix between an extra small and a small. And what I mean by that is that for the raglan increasing along the top, where the increases were also going on the shoulders, I followed an extra small pattern, but then when it came to the increases on the body only, I was following a small. And I can't really explain the reasoning why. I think it was because I was worried that it was going to be too tight under the armpits. I think in retrospect, it probably would have been fine, but also I'm very happy with this fit. I have a couple comments about the pattern, maybe just personal preference than actually something about the pattern itself, and it comes to the short row shaping. She does include a little bit of short row shaping at the top, but I don't feel like it was enough. And I say that because there are many times where I put this shirt on and I can't tell if I put it on backwards or not. And so I'll put it on and it feels a little weird, so I'll flip it around and then it still feels weird. So then I kind of just do whichever one feels less weird, if that makes sense. And I think that's partly because the front and the back are pretty much the same despite doing like 1 or 2 rows of short row shaping. So if I was to do this again, I would probably add some more. For people who don't care about the high neckline, I don't think it really matters. But that's just a comment that I kind of had. Another one that I noticed is that there's a lot of ruching or like bunching of the fabric in the like underarm area. And I don't know if that's the design of the shirt or because I mix sizes or what. I don't realistically care. It doesn't bother me too much, but it is something that I did notice that happens a lot, and you can probably see that it's doing that here. So besides that, I love the pattern. I've been wearing this shirt a ton. I will say that as for a summer shirt, I did knit it in the Sandnes Garden Sunday, which is 100% merino. And for a lot of people, that's probably way too warm. I am typically a person that runs relatively colder, and so I've been loving this. I think it's been the perfect shirt for the last couple days. Realistically, it's been like 25, almost 28 degrees Celsius here where I live, and wool for most people in that temperature is probably too hot, but it's been perfect for me. So I've been wearing this shirt a ton, and I anticipate that I will continue to wear it a ton unless it gets really humid. Maybe then I will, well, by then I'll just wear something else. I don't find that it's usually that hot here, but I've been getting a ton of wear out of it now, and so I've been extremely happy with it. And that is the Aosta summer top by the Knit Pro Girl. Actually, another thing I will add is that this might not be caveated as a completed object to some people if you define completed as ends weaved and blocked, both of which I have not done for this shirt. So take that how you will. I don't define those two characteristics of being a completed object. So to me, this is a completed shirt. I will potentially give an update on how it blocks out though, because when I did block the swatch did grow, not a lot, but a little bit. I'm not too worried in terms of how this shirt will grow. I think if anything, if it gets a little looser and boxier, it'll be even more comfortable for the spring and summer weather. But overall, I'm very happy with this shirt, and I will continue to wear it a ton. Okay, in terms of work in progresses, I have a couple, 3 of which are garment based, and then 2 of which are just kind of misc. Generally, I kind of keep my garment projects at 3, 1 a sock, and then 2 are just general garments. I think that's a good number for me. Otherwise, I have too much on the go, and if any lower, then I get too bored, if that makes sense. So I'll start with the garments first, and then I'll throw in the 2 like miscs at the end. The first one is the Marysia cardigan. I don't actually know if that's how you pronounce it. Probably not, because I think I've heard other people say it differently. But for some reason, whenever I read it the Marysia, so that's what we're going with. And it's this cardigan designed by Vert.And.Rose, I believe is her Instagram handle. It's this beautiful DK weight faux cable motifed cardigan, and I've been working on this for a couple months now, and albeit, we'll be totally honest, haven't made a ton of progress, primarily because I think I just had bad timing with it. So I started it back when we were transitioning from winter to spring, and usually in Ottawa there's like a really long transition period, and so I was really excited to work on this when it was starting to get a little bit warmer, because I was thinking I would get to use it a ton in the early spring days. But this year it was very weird, and we went from winter to spring in like the span of 4 days, I kid you not, because we had a freezing rainstorm like early April, and then literally the week after it was like plus 30. It was insanity. And so because of this weird weather that's been going on, I haven't been as inclined to work on this cardigan because I just don't think I'll be wearing it a ton until it gets cooler. The pattern calls for a DK weight yarn as well, and what I've done for that is I've decided to use Knitting for Olive's Merino in the colorway Marzipan, held with Sandnes Garn's Silk Mohair, and I think the color is called Oatmeal, and I think the color code is like 1015 or something like that. It makes this beautifully fluffy and squishy fabric, and I'll be honest, it's my first time working with mohair, and I think usually people fall into the I love mohair or I hate mohair groups. I am a true indifferent about mohair. I don't think I love the way that it knits because it's quite slippery. And I use bamboo needles, which should be helping that grippiness versus like metal. And I don't find that it is very much. And so my hands cramp a little bit when I knit with this or knit on this because I have to hold the yarn tighter, I guess. But I do like the way that the fabric feels. I don't know if the mohair is itchy because I haven't had a really big chance to wear the garment. But so far, I've really enjoyed the overall process. The pattern is a beautifully designed pattern. I can't give a full review on it because I'm obviously not done, but what I've worked through so far has been very cohesive and very well written. I will say though, you should have a little bit of raglan. It is a raglan cardigan, sorry. I would recommend having a little bit of raglan experience before starting it because the pattern's very detailed in terms of how to do the short row shaping, but it kind of leaves you on your own once you're just knitting the rest. And I don't want to say on your own as in like straight in on the middle of a desert island, but like I think a little bit of background and context in terms of what you would be expecting for a raglan cardigan or top or sweater or whatever you have would be helpful. And so if I'm totally honest, I don't know how much more I will be working on this over the next bit. Maybe that I've showed you now, I will be a little bit more inclined. But that being said, I know I'm more excited about some of my other projects. So this might be on a slow pace to the finish. But we'll see. Love this cardigan so far. Just, I think it's poor timing on my end in terms of completing it. The second work in progress is the one that I've been working primarily on recently and has taken over once this one came off the needles. I actually started this top after I started the cardigan, and this top finished first, which is like a testament to how little I've been working on that cardigan that I just showed you. But once this one came off, I immediately started working on another t-shirt. And this t-shirt here is the Petite Knit Friday tee. And I have been obsessed with this so far, primarily because of the colors that I've selected. So this is also knit in the recommended yarn of Sandnes Garn Sunday. I've come to realize I really like working in fingering weight yarn despite it being very slow going because there's just so many stitches, but it just looks really nice and really clean in my opinion. And I also just like the way that the density of the yarn feels as a fingering weight. Anyways, that was a side digression. But this is knit in Sandnes Garn Sunday in the colorway Almond as this off-white almondy color. And I've matched it with the stripes done in dusty olive green, I believe is what the color is called. Also in Sandnes Garn Sunday. A little bit of a funny story about the yarn for this. So I did buy the almond color and I was originally gonna match it with this like pink tone, this color here. This was my original plan. But when I ordered it, this pink color, the yarn just felt off. And it's labeled Sunday, you can see that. It's labeled Sunday, it's from Petite Knits line. But this yarn is just so like thick. As a comparison, this is the almond color that I'm using. Can you see that like gauge difference? The pink one just looks so much thicker to me. This one actually matches, in my opinion, the double Sunday that I bought. And I bought green double Sunday for a different sweater, which I won't talk about today, but yeah, like when I just hold these three together, they look so different, right? Like the pink one matches the green one and not the cream one. I could go on a tangent about my experience of what happened and what I was doing to resolve that. I don't really want to get into it, but it was kind of a blessing in disguise. And what I mean by that is I don't actually think in retrospect that these two colors would have been a great choice for me in terms of a shirt. I'm obsessed with this green paired with this almond color. So I'm kind of happy that this mistake happened with this ball of yarn, because I otherwise would have been making a cream and pink striped one. And something about this cream and green is just getting me. I'm obsessed, like I said. This is my first Petite knit pattern. I honestly don't have much to say. I don't think I've formulated an opinion on why she is the queen of modern knits. Her pattern's great and I love the design. I don't really have anything to add. Maybe I'll have more of an opinion as I get further down. So far the pattern's been easy to read. Yeah, this is a raglan t-shirt if I haven't mentioned already, and it is done in broken rib, which is the first time I've done in broken rib, and it's been a very enjoyable knit so far. So I hope to make more progress on this. Like I said, it's been slow going. I'm still only on the yoke and I've been working on this for like a week pretty monogamously. So we'll see how far I get as I go on. But love the color. What's getting me through this is the color selection that I've done. My last work in progress, from the garment section at least, is, like I said, a pair of socks. These pair of socks are a pair that I'm making for my husband, and they are like this. So I guess this is kind of a completed object. I have one of them and the other one is almost done. I'm working on the foot section right now. And I don't have much to say about these in the sense that I'm not really following a pattern. I'm loosely using the Hermione Everyday Socks by, I believe the designer's Erica Leuder. And the yarn, so this is why. I don't fully remember the yarn. I lost the label to it. I think it's Opal in the color Sunset or something. And I think that because I'm calling these my sunset socks, so I feel like that had to come from somewhere. But again, I don't remember, which is a shame. I actually really like working with this sock yarn. It's kind of got like a rough rustic feel, which I kind of like. It feels like it gives the sock integrity, and it feels like it's gonna last. I think it's a beautiful colorway. I love that it's like kind of self-striping, but it's not like rigid stripes. I don't know if this is called variegation. I'm really bad for like how you describe yarns, but I've been having a good time knitting this. And yeah, for those who are pretty good sock knitters and follow things to a pattern, kudos to you. I am not one of those. I kind of knit socks willy-nilly, and it's not bad. It's just my socks are definitely sisters and not twins. I kind of knit one and then I kind of use that as like an eyeball gauge for the other one, so I might be missing a whole bunch of rows in terms of like the cuff length and the foot length. But you know what? Hand knits are supposed to be rustic and kind of original and unique, right? That's how I describe it. I will say, after doing that and kind of thinking about it, I might do socks knit 2 at a time moving forward. I'm not sure, I've never tried that. I know that Taylor from the Wool Needle Hands podcast talks about doing her socks 2 at a time, and it's very intriguing to me. I do like the concept of not having to think too hard to have 2 matching socks. And second sock syndrome is definitely a thing in my opinion. Although I will say second sleeve syndrome is significantly worse, but that's a discussion we can have later. And I don't know, maybe when I finish these ones, I will cast on a pair of socks and knit them 2 at a time. I do have plans for socks in the future. To have socks on the go, I think they're just the easiest to throw into a bag and just kind of have as your ad hoc everywhere pattern or everywhere project. But yeah, TBD on what I have plans with this as I try to finish these. I think I can probably finish them if I just spent like an hour or so more. It's just really knitting stockinette in the round right now until I get to the toe decrease, which really shouldn't take any time at all. I just haven't been prioritizing these because realistically I haven't really gone anywhere, so I haven't really brought them anywhere to work on them. But yeah, those are my socks. So those are all my finished, or sorry, all my work in progress garments right now. The other 2, one is actually not even a knitting project, but I'll throw that in here just for funsies, is One of them is this baby blanket that I'm knitting in this beautiful like golden yellow color. I haven't been prioritizing this one either, if I'm being honest. This one is because my manager is actually having a baby soon, and I thought I would knit her a baby blanket. This, I believe, is following the sunny blanket pattern that's free on Ravelry. And it's just using some acrylic yarn that I got from the local Michaels. Not too much to say, it's been a relatively easy knit. I will do a shout out to these stitch markers though. I don't know if you can see that. These are these like spiral ring stitch markers by Cocoknits. Obsessed with these. They're so cute. Love the color. I love how practical they are because they act as just like circular stitch markers, but they also like you can take them off and like thread them places the way you can do with those like pin shaped ones. But yeah, obsessed with those. Anyways, I don't have too much to say with this one because this is just kind of like one of those in the back of my mind projects that I just work on when I just don't feel like working on any other projects, which realistically hasn't been a lot of time recently because I've been obsessed with my Friday tea. But I wanted to throw that in just to maybe show a little, it's like, I want to say like 4 inches, 10 centimeters in length right now. And so maybe this is just kind of a progress update in terms of maybe next time it'll be a little bit longer. Who knows? I have to get this done by July because that's when she's going on maternity leave. So maybe the timeline will light a fire under my butt to get working on this. Until then, this is just my update on that one. And the last one is just a little funsies one. This one's kind of like on hold because I don't have stuffing, but I'm making this cute little penguin. This is actually crochet. And I just thought I would throw him in because he's so cute. And this is following a pattern. Oh, I don't even remember what the designer's name is. I will have to leave them in the description below. But she has a whole bunch of cute, like, stuffed animal designs. And this is the penguin one. I was also, this is his little beak that I haven't attached onto it, but it will look like that eventually. And so that is just also one thing that I just wanted to throw in because it is a work in progress. I just thought it'd be fun to include. Woo! Okay, we're getting there. In terms of the last section, which is future plans, yarn acquisitions, yada, yada, yada. I don't really want to go retrospectively and talk about the yarns that I've accumulated prior to this video, in the sense that I just feel like that could get convoluted. If you guys want to see a yarn stash video, let me know and I can maybe do that instead. Because all of my projects are kind of like ongoing, as much as I buy yarn with projects in mind, I don't really think about upcoming projects until I'm really close to the end / finished projects. So that's what I meant earlier about I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this section. What I will add is that I did do a swatch previously for another summer t-shirt that I can show you. Whether or not this actually becomes a t-shirt or I actually work into this a bigger project, I'm not sure yet. But I thought I'd throw it into this section if anybody is interested or was curious about doing this pattern in the future. But I have this little just basic stockinette stitch gauge swatch that I made a while back in Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino in the colorway Oatmeal. And the plans for this was to make the Anker tee by Petite Knit. If I do make that one, it will be my first time doing a circular yoke. I've pretty much only done raglans, and I think that's a beautiful t-shirt that I think had a pretty big moment last summer, which I wasn't knitting back then, so I'm not sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I do really like the look and the drape of this swatch, so I am curious, but I think after all of these relatively neutral colored patterns, I'm kind of feeling something colorful. I don't know yet, maybe my mind will change. I'm still so early on in the Friday tea that I think planning for projects, at least in my perspective, is kind of like well underway. And as you saw, I have quite a bit of work in progresses going on. So I'm gonna be busy for quite some time. But nevertheless, I just did want to do a quick shout out to say that if you did want to use the Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, I think it's a beautiful yarn, and I would definitely consider making the Anker tee with it. I will also add that there is definitely an interest in using like a cotton merino versus like a merino for a spring/summer knit. And so maybe after I finish the Friday tee, which is also a 100% wool t-shirt, I might be itching for a different kind of yarn fiber. But besides that, I don't really have anything else to add. I think maybe in the future this section may be a little bit more interesting. I'm not sure. I think primarily the work in progresses are always going to be my biggest update. But I want to thank you guys for sticking along and watching my very first knitting podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye. I'm out of breath.